Welcome back. So today I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can create a dual boot between Fedora 22 and the latest Windows 10. Keep in mind that mistakes can happen, and if you ever wish to remove Fedora later on, you will require a Windows installation CD in order to conduct repairs. There are other possibilities for repairs, but you will need a Windows CD in order to actually make your system bootable again. You won't need to reinstall anything. There shouldn't be any loss of data or anything like that, although backups are always advisable. The boot records, the master boot records, will need to be fixed if you wish to remove Fedora later on along the way, although that's not really a big deal. You can look it up on the net or ask me on Udemy. I'd be happy to show you how to do that as well. However, for this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create a dual boot between Fedora 22 and Windows 10, as I said. The tutorial that I'm making now is a result of a request that was made on Udemy, and people have asked me there to demonstrate this procedure. So here we go. I can't really fit it in the tutorials there, so I figured I would just post it here on YouTube everybody can see it here. If you are not from Udemy, if you wish to ask me some questions on how to do stuff here, on how to do something, feel free to do that, but please go through Udemy. The registration is free. You don't need to buy anything. You can just register and post me a question there. If you like, I will leave the link for Udemy amongst other links in the description. So let's go ahead and begin. As I stated before, a good idea is to have a backup of the system in case something goes wrong, because you are messing around with your drive's partitions and something can go wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will, but it can. Second, we will need these things here. So we will need Gparted, we will need a Fedora Live ISO, we will need a live USB creator, and we will need VirtualBox. Don't worry, I will show you where you can download all these things, and for VirtualBox, how to install it and how to install extensions. There's also another video here on my channel. I'll leave the link in the description as well, so you can just go ahead and click on it, and it will explain you. And there, the explanations are provided in great detail: how to install VirtualBox, how to run it, how to set up guest editions, etc. The reason behind us using VirtualBox is so that we may use it in order to partition our USB drive. Why? Apparently in Windows you cannot partition removable storage, which is a bit weird. Or I didn't find a way. I just saw that somebody on Stack Overflow stated that they can't do that, so that Windows cannot do that without some third-party software. So yeah, I figured I would use my favorite tool for partitioning. It's Gparted, but I can't install it in Windows, so I'm just running a live version of Gparted, and I'm gonna run it in VirtualBox. And we're gonna create a pass-through for our USB in order to partition it and to have one smaller partition for the installation. If you're wondering why I am doing this, well, FAT32, you're not going to be able to format a 64 gigabyte USB stick with FAT32 or a 32 gigabyte one. If you have a 16 gigabyte one, you will be able to format it directly from Windows, but other than that, I'm afraid it's just not going to happen. So we need to format our drive. Before you plug it in, know that you should use greater than 8 gigabyte USB stick for this procedure. I have a 64 gigabyte, but that's an overkill. You don't need that much. You can use 8, should be fine. Generally, it's not a problem, but I like to give it 16 gigs just in case the partition where I'm going to have my Fedora. So if you now we're just gonna go ahead and begin the procedure. First off, you're gonna go ahead and open up your web browser in order to download these things. Yep, so let's expand. The first place that we need to go to is live USB creator Fedora. There we go. So live USB creator. And this is the one that you need to download. So here is the link for it. The link will be provided in the description. So just go ahead and click on it, download it. I'm guessing that all of you know how to download a file, so don't need to actually demonstrate that part. Just click on it and the download will begin. The next thing that we need is, wow, he has a lot of stuff here. The next thing that we need is basically Fedora. Let's go that way. So Fedora. Excellent. So just click on the workstation and click on download now, and that will download Fedora, the one that I'm going to use for the purpose of this demonstration. But down below you have something called Fedora spins, and then you can download various desktop packages that have been packaged up with Fedora. So for example, you can use the KDE one, which is the only difference is the desktop environment. That is about it. Everything else is pretty much the same. So you can use some of these desktops. I personally use a KDE one on my main machine, but yeah, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to go ahead and use the default one. Basically, just click on download now and then click on download again, and that's about it. No big deal. The third thing that we're going to need is Gparted. It says a free application. Down below. No, actually up above. Go into download. It says download Gparted live 0.23.0.1i586.iso. Just go ahead and click on that and download that one. So once you have downloaded these three things, you are good to go. They'll be in your downloads folder or wherever you have downloaded them. And for Oracle VirtualBox, as I said, go back to the previous tutorial, go back to some of the other tutorials here. You will see that there is a video. I will also leave a link in the description just in case how to download, install, and set up VirtualBox in Windows 10. Next up, we are going to take our USB stick that you have. I have not plugged my in yet. Is it somewhere around here? Okay, so it was on my table under the keyboard. Anyway, now I would like to ask you to just take the USB stick that you have and plug it into your machine. So let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Gotta go below the desk. Not a pleasant exercise, but a necessary one. There we go. So I've plugged it in case you have, well, I've already set it up once. I'm going to delete all of this. In case you have anything of importance on that USB, back it up because it's going to get destroyed. My USB stick is 64 gigabytes, which is a huge overkill for this, but I am just going to go ahead and use it to install Fedora, and then I'm going to wipe it clean and reformat it to use for something else. Anyway, as I said, you need either 8 gigabytes or greater than 8 gigabytes. I'm pretty sure that 8.1 will work. No guarantees there. 16.1 will work for sure. But 8 gigabyte one should work as well without any sort of problems of whatsoever. Now that we have plugged it in, let's go ahead and partition it and make a single partition for 15 gigabytes. We'll make a 15 gigabyte partition just to be on the safe side. Let's fire up the VirtualBox, and okay, let's remove this from my previous tries. Go ahead and click on New, Gparted, name it whatever you like. Obviously Linux, and it's Debian based, so Debian 32-bit. Next. By the way, I didn't enable virtualization on this computer in BIOS, so I am stuck with 32-bit, but I don't want to mess around with it. This is not my computer, so yeah, I'm going to give it 1.3 gigs of RAM, which is also an overkill. Create, next. I like to give it 30 gigs of space. Again, huge overkill for this purpose. And now go ahead and right-click on this machine, go into Settings, go into storage where it says empty, click here and then choose a virtual optical drive. In case you didn't see, I actually clicked on the blue icon here and then choose virtual optical disk, and then I'm going to go into the well, yours will most likely be in the downloads folder. somewhere around here. You see there are the two of those, but I've copied these things to desktop, and I'm gonna go ahead and select Gparted Live 023, the ISO file that I have downloaded from the net. So go ahead and click on open, and down below I shall select enable USB controller and USB 2.0 EHCI controller, and then I'm going to click on the plus sign here and select my USB from here. This is a, I mean, take a wild guess which one of these is a USB. Well, it's this one, Toshiba Transmemory. Obviously it's not Logitech USB headset or Logitech gaming keyboard. It's just this one, and I'm gonna go ahead and click on OK. Yours might have different names, the USB ones, but I'm pretty sure that you will be able to manage. Let's go ahead and start Gparted. Just double click on it, and it's going to be a pretty ugly interface in my opinion, but a very useful one. Why are we doing all of this? As I've explained previously, apparently you can't format external, not external, but removable storage in Windows, which is kinda annoying, but oh well, what can you really do about it? That's life. Learn to live with it, no big deal. And it's amazing that my recording software, I mean, I've tried like 100 different ones, and this one seems to sort of work after like 4 minutes or something like that. It continues the audio, but it freezes the video, which is, oh, amazing. Never happened to me in Linux. I think this is just due to the Windows standard. It's a bit new, so a lot of programs don't tend to work with it, something like that. Had like 30% of things break down when I updated this machine. And it says, okay, we have an option here, don't touch the key map, doesn't really matter. Unless you want some other language, just type in the number from the ones that are offered. I'm gonna go ahead and press enter by 33, which is the US English. Again, just press enter here. That's gonna select the default option to boot into the GUI mode. Although, yeah, doable via command line, but let's go ahead and do it like this and simplify it a little bit. Okay, come on, today, sometime today. Excellent. So we have our, oops, not that one, dev STB. Now keep in mind, for me it's dev STB. For you it might be named something else, but just take a look at the size and I'm sure you will be able to recognize your own USB. So let's go ahead and delete this. And then we will, until you get unallocated completely, keep on deleting everything on it. As I said, things will be deleted. You will not be able to perform recovery later on this USB stick, so make sure to back things up. And now let's go ahead and say we would like to create a new partition. I'm gonna say 15 gig. So that's in megabytes. That's why the number is that big. And then the file system will be FAT32. And I'm gonna give it a label now, which will be changed later anyway by default. But I'm gonna give it the label now so that we can recognize the partition that we're going to use later on in, so that I can just show it to you in Windows, nothing else really. So we're gonna name it Fedora. It's not 33. I'll just leave it at Fedora, it's fine. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on add. And I'm going to click on apply. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. Thank you. So now this procedure will go ahead. And while this is all happening, we need to make sure that we have made enough space on our machine in order for this to be, in order for us to be able to install Fedora. So go ahead and right click on this PC and then go into manage. And then go into disk management. Come on. Okay, so over here I have disk 1, disk 2, and disk 0. They are all very busy and partitioned to the point of extreme, as you can see. But I have disk 2, the space here is completely unallocated, and that is where I shall install Fedora 22. As you have seen the inscription at the beginning of the video, this method does require you to have at least two disks, two physically separated disks, and one disk you will have to use for booting Fedora and the other one for Windows. It is possible to have them on a single disk, but I've decided to not go through that because there are simply way too many problems these days with that, and the problems vary from one machine to the other. The machines that have the least amount of problems are Dell machines. You can do whatever you want on them. On HP machines, I've noticed that it's just a nightmare to do, so I anticipated that there would be a lot of problems with you guys, and I didn't want to go with that setup. Rather, instead, I figured I would go with a foolproof setup that is bound to work for everyone, as long as you have two disks that are classified as internal storage. So I have one disk down below. It's something, I don't know, disk 2, and that is the one that I shall use. And by the way, before I forget, the way you would liberate space is by, okay, so I have some partitions up above. These are the partitions that I have made during my trial runs. So if you want to delete them, just click on, where is it? Delete volume. So delete volume until the entire disk is clean. So one entire disk needs to be cleaned. You're going to destroy your information irreparably through this process, so make sure to back things up. And this disk that you want to use, I don't know, you can get an SSD over eBay for like 50 bucks or something like that if you don't have any spare disks lying around. If you want an HDD, well, you can get that for a lot less over eBay as well, so feel free to give it a shot there if you want, or if you find some other place where you can get them for less money. Trust me, it's going to save you so many problems, and it's not going to be a nerve-wracking experience that this process usually is with the new Windows. It became a nerve-wracking process from Windows 8 onwards, the dual boot that is. So let's go ahead and close this. Okay, I've switched to my phone now. We're gonna go ahead and install our USB live creator, and then we're gonna go ahead and create the live USB. Hopefully you can see everything. I have illuminated this area as much as I could have. My apartment is basically a beacon of light. So let's go into the downloads folder, and or wherever else you might have downloaded this. So not here apparently. There we go. So this one, just go ahead and double click on it. Shouldn't be too long. Come on, there we go. So just click on yes here. Oh man, the light, it's killing me. Yes. And then we're just going to go ahead and click on next here, install. The installation process should be fairly fast. I'm making sure that you can see everything. In case you're wondering why I'm recording with my phone now, it's because I need to reboot the machine. So yeah, can't exactly use a desktop app for that. Just going to go ahead and click on next and finish. And then I have it here. Oh, by the way, you need to run it as an administrator if you're not running it like this, the way I am. If you're running it from the start menu, run it as an administrator. So right click and run as administrator. We've got the right drive selected, our USB that is plugged in. We're just going to go ahead and browse for our image. Mine is here. Yours might be elsewhere. Depends where you placed it on your disks. Click on open. And then just go ahead and click on create live USB. That's about it. No big deal. This is gonna run for a bit. Once it is done, I will come back. I know that I could have recorded this part as well with my desktop app, but it seems to interfere with the live USB creator, and I don't know, I just blame Windows for it, I guess. But oh well, I'm just gonna leave it as it is, wait for it to finish, and then we're gonna go ahead and continue. Okay, so it has finished now. You can see at the bottom it says complete, and that is what we wanted. So the next thing that we need to do is basically just close this, as we no longer need it. Okay, fine. It says that there could be an error or something like that. We're gonna ignore that, even though we probably shouldn't. Now we're gonna go ahead and say power off, and we're not gonna restart the machine. Instead, we're gonna shut the machine down, like completely. So this is just for the first time. I have tried rebooting it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I've realized that it works more often if you just shut it down the first time around. So we'll see if it actually works out this time the way I wanted it to work out. Now down below is darkness, complete and utter darkness, even though my house is the beacon of light now. Okay, still darkness, and you can see that the USB is now plugged in completely. And over here, I am going to power it on. Excellent. Okay, so it's booting. F10. Oh no, sorry, escape. Quickly press the escape button. Ah, there we go. So for you, it might be different. It's just the boot options. And it says here Toshiba Trans Memory, so it has recognized it immediately. Look, if you don't get it here immediately, if you don't see it immediately, I suggest that you don't get discouraged immediately. Just reboot the machine and replug your USB to a different port, and do that several times and see if it works out. And that should generally fix the problem. So go ahead and select this one, Toshiba Trans Memory. That's mine. Well, yours might be different. And now we are faced up. Let me just move a little bit. Sorry. Come on, please show the letters on the screen. Please show the letters in the screen. Almost there. There we go. So now I am faced with the following error. And what do I do? Well, all you need to do is type in Linux 0. So Linux 0, and that should solve the issue. Press enter. Otherwise, it's not going to boot. Otherwise, it's just going to hang here indefinitely, so you have to do something about it. So nothing new is going to be printed. Let's see if it boots. Boot. Yes. Go. There we go. So Fedora 22 is now officially booting. And you might see some other stuff around this table that you don't want to see. Such as food, stuff like that, which has been there for a while now. So I promise after this video, I am seriously going to clean this table up, because I am lacking the space literally to put my phone down, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so it's booting. Come on. There you go, the F letter in the center. Not gonna happen. Okay, so I know that the imagery is horrible, but oh well. It's still 1080p, right? You'll be able to see it. There you go, it has improved. So try Fedora or installed hard drive. We're gonna say that we want to install it to a hard drive. And it's going. So just wait for it. It doesn't pop up immediately. Let's go ahead and select the language of our preference. So I'm gonna go ahead and select English, and I need English UK, and I'm gonna go ahead and click on continue. You can select whatever you want, I don't care. Just click on continue in the bottom right corner. And then we have a keyboard, time and date, network, blah blah blah, and we have the installation destination. This is the important part. So now we have like 4 disks here. And how do we know which one is which? Well, just take a look at the size, I guess, or you can look at these numbers if you like and compare them. But generally, you can take a look at the size. I know that it's this one for sure. This is the only SSD drive there, and on top of that, I know that the size is 120. It was a pretty cheap disk, so I'll make it work.
I'm gonna say that I will configure the partitioning, even though we're still gonna go with the default layout, but I want you to see it. So I'm gonna go ahead and once you actually click on the disk, you can see this black thing points appears, and that means that you have selected it. Make sure that you do not click on any other disks other than the one you intended it for. I'm gonna go ahead and click on done, and let me just zoom out now. So down below, the pink one is available space and the brown one is total space. So pretty much all space is available. And up here, these blue letters, it says, come on, click here to create them automatically. You should be able to deduce that that is what it says, or you can take my word for it. And we're not going to select LVM. I'm going to select a standard partition, and then we're going to use this to create them automatically. And you can see that, oops, then you can see what partitions we have. We have, starting from the top, we have home, and then we have, that's for the user, I guess, and then down below for system, there is a boot partition, there's a root partition, and then there's a swap partition. The root partition is basically the starting point of your file system. The swap partition, the boot partition is, well, basically what it says it is, what the label says it is, that is the boot partition, from where the OS will boot. And then you have the swap partition at the bottom. Now this is a really old concept. Basically it's when you have a certain amount of RAM, and then if that amount of RAM runs out, if you use it all up, then the system will start using a certain portion of the disk as a RAM, which is ridiculously slow, but it's gonna work. It's not gonna crash your PC or anything like that, it's gonna work. So a preventive measure. Although newer PCs, they have like 16 gigs of RAM, something like that, or 8 gigs, and it's highly unlikely that that will ever be used. And the home partition, well, that's the home user. That's the home sorry, not the home user. That's the home directory that you have on Windows as well. So we're gonna go ahead and click on done, as we have used this entire drive. And okay, so at this point of time, when we click on accept changes, that is when the changes will actually start to take place. Otherwise, this is not going to happen. None of this will happen. So let's go ahead and say accept changes, and you can see it actually set everything up. Custom partitioning selected, schema is loaded. So at this point of time, when I click begin installation, that is when all of these things will begin. Sorry, not a moment ago, but now when I click on begin installation, I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and it's beginning. Now at this point of time, it's not reversible. No changes can take place. No, don't do this to me. There we go. So we can set the root password, which we will. Just type in some password here, whichever one you want. I don't particularly care because I am going to reconfigure this machine once I'm done with this. I'm just looking to make this work now. I'm gonna click on done. If you typed in a bad one, you'll have to click done twice. And then just type in the things here that you need. So full name, username. You don't have to actually type your full name. You can type in whatever you want. That's just for your reference. And down below as well. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and click done twice. What have we created here? Well, we have created a standard user for us to use on the system. That is the user that we're going to use on the system, while the root user we use for administrative tasks or stuff of a kind, or to install things. We could have made the standard user an administrator as well and given him sudo privileges, but I prefer to go about things this way. If you don't, feel free to alter it in any way you like. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video here, and then I'm gonna come back when the installation is done. Okay, so the installation is over and done with. I am done with it. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on quit. And in the upper right corner, I'm going to go ahead and click on, well, I might as well restart the computer. This time around shouldn't be a problem. And okay, now we can go into the boot menu again. I'm pressing the escape. Keep in mind that your key might be different. So it might be different for you. And excellent. So now we have several drives at our disposal here. You will need to identify them and see which one is which. I know for a fact that mine is first. This is where the Windows is installed, and this one is where Fedora is installed. So this is how we're going to switch between them. So you know that the Windows is installed on this machine. So let's go ahead and boot up the Fedora. And there you go. So if we boot into the Fedora, sorry, it went too fast. I was a genius who forgot to press an arrow, but hold on. Give me a moment. Okay, let's go and do that again. Just gonna restart the machine. The amazing feeling of being awesome. Press escape 100 times. For me, for you, it might be different. You're looking for the boot menu option. Just kidding, I'm not awesome. This is lame that I've actually missed this, but okay. Anyway, this is the disk that I want. It's going to be different for you, so make sure that you select the right one. So when I select it and press enter, good, I've saved my grace this time. Let me just do this. There we go. So you see that the first one is Fedora 22, second one is Rescue, and the third one is Windows. Now, Windows might boot and might not. I know it says Windows 7, but it's not Windows 7, okay? Trust me on that one. You'll see soon enough. It might boot, it might not. Doesn't matter, we can always manually boot from the other drive. That is why this method is foolproof. When you have two drives, you can always select the drive from which to boot, and there is no way for the system to prevent you in any way, because you are the one determining from which drive you want to boot. Okay, so since we've seen, let's boot into Fedora. Let's see, let's prove that it actually works. Let's see that it is functional to the fullest of extents. And then we're gonna see how we can boot into Windows. Once we are done with that, that will be the end of this tutorial. I know it's been a bit of a longer one, but what can I do really? There we go, so login. Let's go ahead and log in. Keep in mind that this is the first login, so it's a bit slower. And there we go, so Fedora is fully functional. I mean, you're gonna get this setup menu. So select a language. You're gonna get greeted here in 1,000 languages. And then the typing, so just select your keyboard layout or an input method. I'm gonna go ahead and select the lowest one. Location services, no, not really, don't really need them. Automatic problem reporting, sure, I'm gonna let them have that because I want them to be able to improve. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on next. You can link your accounts, but I'm not gonna link them now. You're all the best. You're all set. I'm full of these things today. Start using Fedora. That's it. You are now in Fedora 22. You have a bit of a tutorial here if you want it. Once you close it, it's never going to bother you again. You have the calendar here, the sound and power and settings are here. And if you click on activities, it's going to bring you in this menu like this. And if you click on this bar here, you're going to have a set of applications. So if anybody's using a Mac, GNOME is pretty much the same. So everything is the same. I do believe that Mac is using a GNOME, but I'm not really sure about that. I don't want to make a fool out of myself here. Anyway, that would be it as far as Fedora is concerned. Let's go ahead and see if we can actually boot into Windows. So let's go ahead and restart. So there are two methods of booting into these systems. So let's just press escape, escape, escape. Come on. And you're stuck for some strange reason. I don't know, it could be this machine. It's not the newest of machines. It doesn't always work the way I want it to work, but oh well, I mean, no big deal. Yep, it's stuck. Definitely stuck. 100% stuck. Oh well, no big deal. I'm just gonna go ahead and press the power button down below, and then I'm gonna power it back on. This is why a reboot with these things is not a good idea. Better to power off the machine completely and have it work properly as opposed to this. I've just taken the USB out as well, since we no longer need it at all. Now the machine is booting again. Let's go into the boot menu. Okay, so I'm gonna select the same drive again. There we go. This one. And I'm gonna select Windows 7 loader on SDA1. Let's see what happens. Does this look like Windows 7? No, it doesn't. There is no Windows 7 installed on this machine at all. It's just the entry in grub, so no worries. Come on, come on, come on. Sometimes today you will be done. And here we go, it's booting. You can see that this is Windows 8. There we go, so we are now in Windows 8, the familiar environment from a moment ago, which I have used. Okay, there we go, I've managed to lift that up. I'm not gonna log it again, there is literally no point. Let's go ahead and restart the machine to see if another method of boot will work. It's definitely restarting again. Gotta wait it out. I mean, I wish these things were instantaneous. I do not understand why does it take Windows so much to begin restarting. On Linux, when you click on restart, it restarts immediately. I do not understand this at all. Why would you halt the restart procedure? There is no valid reason in my mind as to why this should be so. So frustrating. Come on, my good man, come on. Now, it's checking for something. I'm gonna go ahead and power the machine off because I am too lazy to wait for this. And quite frankly, I'm a bit frustrated I would have to wait if I issued a command. So let's go ahead and reboot the machine. I've powered off the machine. I'm just gonna power it back on. And you see, if I do nothing, actually, I do need to press escape. Excellent, so I did press it in time. And if I select the first disk from the top, which is the disk where I know that the Windows is installed, from where it's going to boot, if I press enter, I can always use it to boot into Windows. So you can see, even though I have a software option, and you can go into BIOS and set that disk for Fedora where that grub menu entries are presented to be a default one. Just go into boot options in BIOS and select that disk to be the default one from which the boot will go, and then you will always be prompted with the grub entries, so you can select whichever one you want, no big deal. Oops, forgotten which side the camera was. And there we go, booting into Windows 10, which is again frustrating. Again, it is checking for something and I have no idea what. The boot cannot possibly be this long. There we go. So I hope that this guide was of use to you, that it did help. I wanted to show you how to do it in BIOS as well, to change the default boot drive. But then I remembered that BIOS will not be the same for you as it is for me, and it would be rather pointless. All you need to do is press a key at the beginning where I pressed escape. Your key will be different. So there are usually two options: the boot menu and the setup or BIOS. And if you enter BIOS or setup, as it is called today, you can just go under the section where it says boot. And under the section where it says boot, it's pretty simple. Just move the drive up that you want to be used for boot. So just change the boot order there. BIOS doesn't have a lot of options to begin with. I mean, it would take you 15 minutes to go through all the possible options in BIOS manually. So no worries there. It's very, very, very small and very, very, very few options. And you should be able to do it without any problems of whatsoever. Anyway, the main portion of this on how to do this dual boot, I've shown it to you. There should be a foolproof method without any problems. And if the grub menu entries for Fedora and Windows do not work out for you, no big deal, as long as you can boot into Fedora and into Windows from two separate hard drives by selecting them at boot time. That is the foolproof way of doing it anyway. There are a lot of guides out there that state how you can do this in a single drive or something like that. You can. I'm not going to object to it. I've tried it out myself. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I've had so many problems with it that I've just decided not to go along with it anymore. And a lot of other people in the forums have confirmed that they do have problems doing that. Anyway, I bid you all farewell, and I hope that this was of use.